Greetings, everyone. I am delighted to welcome you to the third webinar in our fifth series of free webinars for interpreters that began during the pandemic. I am Marjorie Bancroft, the Director of Cross-Cultural Communications. This is a webinar that is hosted by Cross-Cultural Communications for the benefit of interpreters everywhere. That's why the series is free. A lot, as you know, most of them have been in one way or another associated with remote interpreting because CCC, Cross-Cultural Communications, as the only national training agency for community and medical interpreting and publisher of interpreter training manuals and textbooks, we are seeing the huge need for guidance for interpreters on remote interpreting, which is why we're here today with the rather amazing Elena Hart. Elena Hart is, like most of you, an interpreter, and she has come from the field with over 12 years of experience. She is from Ukraine, speaks several languages, and is a member of the National Council on Interpreting in Healthcare. But more important, she's passionately dedicated to helping interpreters understand and advance themselves in the field in general, but with an especial concern for what's happening to remote interpreters in the field, which is the topic of her presentation. Now, a couple of quick reminders. If you're not familiar with this, if you say hi in chat or want to comment in chat, that's great, but adjust your settings because right now the default is to just to send your message to panelists. So make sure you're sending your messages to everyone. If you have questions for our wonderful presenter, please put them in the Q&A feature, not chat, because I will be coming back with about a quarter hour before the end to ask Elena the questions. We are going to send you tomorrow, like within 24 hours of the end of the webinar, a link to the recording of this webinar, a link to your certificate. CEUs are only for those, by the way, who have been attending live. We can't give CEUs if you're not attending live today. And thanks to the graciousness of our presenters, including Elena, a link also to the PowerPoint, because we always get asked that question. Without further ado, and with genuine gratefulness to Elena for sharing her expertise and her passion for helping interpreters push themselves up to the professional level, I hand the baton to Elena, but I will be back to ask you questions because there will be many questions, Elena. Have fun.
Thank you, Marjorie. Thank you so much for introducing me, and hello, everyone. I'm truly grateful for this opportunity to be able to discuss the VRI and how it has become the most prominent modality nowadays of interpreting. We will also see how you can adjust your skill set to working as a video remote interpreter, and how you can get more valuable jobs, how you can get more assignments, how you can get meaningful employment within the language service industry. So let's see, I'm going to share my presentation right now with you. And we'll begin. All right. So as I say, today the webinar will be dedicated to the ways we can get work in VRI. We're going to have a straight talk on how we can land video remote interpreting assignments, how we can be a contractors or even an employees within certain companies, and how we can thrive as interpreters in our reality of today. So let's just start with the realization that the over-the-phone interpreting as well as video remote interpreting is a steadily growing market in the United States. Just in 2019, the global language service industry was worth about $50 billion, as for the decade it has been growing steadily. So we can always assume that we'll have enough jobs for everyone, and this is very prominent industry to be working at. So here are some reasons that we can point out, we can underline of why VRI is the future of interpreting. Well, first and foremost, it's globalization. Globalization didn't start yesterday. It actually started back in 18th century, but it's still going on strong. And people negotiate. They have trade relations, economic relations. They speak different languages, so interpreters as well as translators will always be needed for that matter. Another reason is social distancing. Yes, since the pandemic started, people started having a new normal reality when we have to social distance ourselves. Lots of providers started having online meetings, online even evaluation screenings. So yeah, that contributed a lot to VRI as the main mode of interpreting. Another great reason is the development of video communication platforms. This is a very great way for an interpreter to work for multiple companies and to keep all the invoices, all the information in one place. The most famous I know, for example, is the Boostlingo. I also come across the platform called Interprify, right? VRI is great because it is fully integrated nowadays into telehealth and telemedicine. Since the pandemic started, and even before that, some people used the telemedicine and telehealth services. And it's very easy to use them with the interpreters being on call and being able to assist a limited English proficient patients um, with the language services. And one of the major reasons, in my opinion, is of course economic. So companies can cut costs on interpreting when we have no travel needs attached. And I think it's a win-win situation for interpreters as well, because the time that we spend usually between commute from another job, from one appointment to another, we can pretty much save and just take one more assignment to make more money that day. Okay, so you already know that you want to become a VRI interpreter, but you need a certain skill set to be a good one. I hope that all of us here who are present today, we understand that being bilingual does not necessarily make you an interpreter automatically. Yes, it's a great foundation and you can build up your professional skills from there, but let's not forget that interpreting is more than just a good knowledge fluency in 2 or more languages. So let's look at the skill set that I prepared here and how we can adjust each of these skills to work in the video remote interpreting modality. First and foremost, you have to have a reliable and well-trained short memory. Short memory is extremely important during the interpreting sessions. If you're still working on your short-term memory, I suggest you just ask a client, a consumer, to speak in short increments, short sentences, so that you are able to convey your message accurately. Also, the one exercise that I decided to take, and I sometimes do it myself. For example, you need to go shopping. I suggest you write the list of groceries that you need to buy in your phone, and then just never look it up when you're actually shopping. Come back home and see, check if you bought everything from that list or you missed something. So that way we can incorporate learning some interpreting skills without actually sacrificing or taking an extra time of your day for it. Another great skill, quick reaction when switching between languages. That's extremely important because if you don't have quick reaction, you can get blind. So blind, like get stuck at some point, and you will be searching a word from a different language. You might get puzzled. That's not very good. So how we can try and solve this problem? Just regularly use your working languages in your daily life. Try to speak with people in your native language, in your fluent language, in your working language, as much as you can, but always make sure that you switch and use them throughout the day. Just watch videos maybe if you don't have opportunity to talk that day. Another skill is what we call an open ear. So your ear has to be open to the multitude of accents, articulation errors, maybe dialects, So you have to train your brain by listening to people speaking English not as their native language. It helps immensely then when you get to a VRI session and either service provider or the client have some thick accent. You still will have to be able to decode that. So listening to different videos, audios, maybe podcasts could be a great warm-up before you start your work. Good communication skills. Yes, we communicate with different various people throughout the day, and it's very important to know how to treat people nicely, to know how to get the best out of your interpreting session. So always be flexible, always respect both parties in communication, and yeah, always be a professional when at work and throughout the day. Um, Another great skill, you have to have an exceptional note-taking skills, and that skill you can grow with time. You have to always be ready to write down certain numbers, measurements, days, sometimes even the correct order of the bullet points. And I would suggest you check out the course that Rose Cultural Communication offer on note-taking. I think that that would be great way to spend your money and time and fortify or strengthen that skill of note taking. Another great skill that you might want to think about is to sound well while you performing your job. So make sure you buy or invest some money in a premium quality headset with a video camera so that you can be sure that all the parties of communication see and hear you very well. Another thing that we have to discuss is great problem solving skills. Well, you know, and you've probably been through that, not every interpreting session goes smoothly. Sometimes there are hurdles along the way, difficulties, technical or interpersonal. Anyway, you have to know how to work on Zoom, on Google Meet, Microsoft Teams, and other platforms, because very often you would be the person who client or service provider will come for help. So be ready to lend them your helping hand. And the last but not least, be resilient to constant stress. When our brain processes information in various languages, it's like a super intense workout that our brain is going through. So make sure that you have enough rest, you take care of your mental health, and you practice. The more you interpret, the more confident you get. And you will eventually decrease this level of stress. But when you just first start, you should pay attention to that matter. This is the topic that I'm most passionate about. Let's say yes, you are interpreter. You started getting your jobs and everything is going great, but how to attract even more employers or even more companies that would like to hire you as a contractor? Well, you have to think about the ways you can rebrand yourself as a video remote interpreter. I feel that the mindset is a key. So always come to every appointment with a high self-esteem. Tell to yourself, I'm a video remote interpreter, and what is your superpower? Because you're a superwoman or you're a superman. You have possess this great skill that helps many people, and you should feel proud of yourself. You should feel good about yourself by providing interpreting services. So I suggest the first thing you should do is go just right off this webinar. If you don't have the LinkedIn, please create one. Create your LinkedIn account and develop it. So by developing, I mean, don't just post your name and couple places of employment that you had, but be active there. You can upload there all your certificates, write down the previous experience. Also, you should post there at least once a week. Post some article on interpreting, on language services, on language access, on anything that is dear to your heart and that you care about. That way people can see that you really want to develop within the industry and you care about being a professional. Another great thing is to use a free website builder and create your portfolio. Well, we cannot be very creative in our resumes, but we can be creative when we create portfolio page. And I know quite a few free website builders where you can have it for free. In case you want to buy your domain, I think it's also not a lot of money, like $20 a year. So I could suggest you check out Wix, Webador, GoDaddy, Site123. They all offer this free service of setting up your portfolio page. Another important thing, you have to be visible. So you have to go to professional events, you have to attend events online, you have to be there, you have to meet people. People need to know about you, because if you just sit at home and don't speak to anyone and don't be involved, nobody will find out what a great interpreter you are, and you won't land as many jobs as you wished you would. Networking is the key. I think that you will get your next great offer by just simply networking. So don't underestimate the importance of networking for your career and for your advancement as a professional. Another great thing is to join a professional organization. Yeah, be the part of some organization. It's not only great in means of networking and meeting your colleagues, it's great because they offer you free webinars, free resources if you get ready for certification. The membership is not about even less than 100 a year, I believe, like $60, $80 usually, but you will have lots of resources you could use for your career if you become a member. And join networking groups as well. That's a great opportunity to meet other interpreters and advocate for our fair employment and just be there for each other. So I highly suggest you do that. Oh, I didn't know they do that. Okay, let's see. um, all right, so you already got some of great jobs, and now you go for your interpreting job, and you want to know what to expect, how to deal with some issues that might arise. Let's see what you can do here. So let's look at this table of some hurdles, ways to solve them, and the outcomes. I'm sure you've been in these situations many times. Me, I know I've been there for quite a few times. So the hurdle number one, when service provider keeps on talking to you as an interpreter and asking you to ask questions, and no matter how many times you ask them to directly address to the client, sometimes it's just difficult for them to do it. So you should still keep on insisting politely that you are just a mediator and you facilitate communication, but you are not the party in this conversation. So if you do that everything right, the client will not feel left out and all the interpreting practices will be preserved, which is important for our code of ethics. Another hurdle you can come across is that if a limited English proficient client declines interpreting services, yes, it can happen for various reasons. Sometimes people feel upset or they feel humiliated even if they need interpreter. It's probably some cultural barrier that some people have. So in this case, I suggest you ask service representative if they prefer you to stay, just in case. And if they say, yes, we would like you to stay, you should just become invisible, but also ready to jump in any second to solve some problem on if the client has trouble understanding or if there was some miscommunication. Yes, it's important to do that, to both respect the right of a client, but make sure that communication is successful. And when this conversation is over, both parties will leave it with a clear understanding of the future steps or of that all the information was told and accepted correctly. The client asks your opinion or advice or starts treating you as a friend. Sometimes it's even worse. Some clients start flirting with you. That can get to a very, very frustrating point. So please gently explain that you're here only to facilitate communication and you're not allowed to express your opinion, to give advice, or provide your personal phone number, or talk after the session is over. It's very important because as interpreters, we need to always follow the code of ethics, and we need to make client understand, our function in this communication, um, so that everything goes smoothly and well from that moment on. When client didn't clearly understand the question but answered it anyway, that is a tricky situation, because in that case, your main uh, the main thing that you can see is that some nonverbal cues. For example, you looked in the eyes and you just see that the person didn't understand, but for some reason doesn't want you to help. Well, this is the time for you to intrude and to jump in and just say, excuse me, interpreter intervenes. I feel that the client had hard time understanding and replied without understanding your question in full. So you can save the day. You can actually be the hero here, because sometimes a mistake or answering to a question of the evaluation or questionnaire can really make a difference. So be sure that you also feel responsible for any miscommunication in your session. Sometimes client and service representative have no idea how to work or over the phone or in the video remote interpreting. So sometimes they never done conference call. You have to be the one who explains them how to do it. Some people, even in this time after 2 years of pandemic, I've come to across a client who like literally never used Zoom, and I had to explain how to use it from first step to the last step. So always be ready to be the person who people come for some help. And you have to make sure this interpreting session takes place despite all the issues that you might have. Let's get a quick look at the industries here. So this is the table representative of industries in the United States. We can see that 20% of all the services are needed in education, and it makes sense, because even if, let's say, children arrive and immigrate to the United States in young age and quickly pick up on English, sometimes parents have difficulties, and in order to talk to the school staff, in order to talk to teachers, sometimes we need the services, early education, early intervention services also needed in great capacity. Non-profits, of course, non-profits. When we have a lot of immigrants these days, a lot of refugees, remember that surge of inquiries for Pashto language when the refugees were fleeing Afghanistan. So non-profits will be the places you want to check up, and usually they're always looking for contractors for language jobs. Government takes 11%. It's all the immigration related, USCIS services, and I believe that here we can also say the court, legal interpreting in court, since it's also the part of the government. Healthcare, 10%. Yeah, hospitals still need your interpreting services to allow limited English proficient patients get the best healthcare they can get. Finance technology, 8% each. There were some other industries, but the percentage was so little, it wasn't included in this chart. So, I mean, you can look at it and really even plan where you would like to work for, what companies, where is the perspective for you, employment-wise. So let's say you're a contractor and you want to become an employee, or you're a contractor and you're perfectly fine with keeping your work as a contractor. There is no right and wrong here. I believe that just choose what works best for you, for your lifestyle, for your, professional and personal goals. Contractors, if you're a contractor, there are some advantages, of course, but also disadvantages, like with everything. When you're a contractor, you can work whenever you want, take assignments that you wish. You're flexible. You can, get assignment in the morning, go to lunch, or get a medical appointment yourself, or go to the hairdresser. It doesn't matter. You decide your own schedule. You don't pay taxes at the time when you make money, but you will pay them eventually with the help of 1099 form at the end of the fiscal year. I believe that if you're a contractor, you do have potential to start your own language service company because you're a self-starter. You're your own boss. You manage your finances. You manage your invoices. You're good. You have good skills at time management. So you'll be great as a businessman or businesswoman. Also, being a contractor will allow you to work in various industries. This is important if you care about developing as a professional. You can take community interpreting assignments. You can take medical. You can do the legal even. If you're up to it. So you can develop and grow as a professional, and that's what being contractor means. You will always have extra time for self-education. It means you will be able to come like today. You came for this webinar. That's great. You're did very good for educating yourself, getting more knowledge. There's no such thing as too much knowledge, right? So that's always a good option. No micromanagement, so nobody will tell you that you did it wrong and you have to, but you have to be your own judge, basically. If you know you um, made a mistake, please revise it after the session and make sure you will not do it again. That's how we grow. Disadvantages is, of course, financial reasons. You won't have stable income, most likely no benefits, and no ability to form union. I feel that being a contractor is not for everyone. You have to be highly disciplined. You have to work on your own. So you have to have certain soft skills to be a contractor. Not everyone is able to thrive in being a contractor within the language industry. What happens if you, let's say you're lucky, or you hope to become a full-time interpreter in the hospital, let's say. Well, you of course will have a job security, which is always good. You will know that this month you'll make this much, and next month you'll do that much, and it will be stable. You'll be able to pay your bills, to plan for your future. That's always good to have stable income. Usually, your employer would give you then opportunity to attend free professional trainings and workshops. I know that some would even provide some money for your education, even college education. So that can be an option you can be interested in. You'll have benefit package and paid overtime. And of course, you always have an opportunity to grow as a professional, to advance in your career. What are the cons of being an employee? Well, and you will have schedule from 8 to 4 or from 9 to 5. That can be tough at first if you come from a contracting lifestyle. You most likely won't be able to work for another language service provider because that would be a conflict of interest, and companies doesn't like that too much. You'll have to choose. You will most likely have a lower hourly rate in comparison to contractors. Sometimes, in worst cases, you will have to work like in a sweatshop and work with employers who treat you just like another number. They don't treat you as a professional at all. That can lead to burnout and overwork. But as I say, it's your decision, and you should know what works best in your life situation, in your case. Just think and analyze the ways you can be contractor or employee. Here are some red flags that I've noticed, at least while applying for jobs myself, while reading stories of other people applying. And I just gave them these funny names, maybe to describe. So there are 5 of them, the red flags we should look out when we try and search for meaningful employment. Fairy tale job offer. Well, this is a job offer that is too good to be true. Dramatic job offer. It's very theatrical offer with a proper pause. No more questions job offer. This is the job offer when not many questions were asked, and so the outcome is not the best. The con job offer is probably the worst job offer because it's simply a scam, and lack of data trap, when you don't have enough data, enough information before you accept the offer, and then you might pretty much regret it. Let's look over each and every one of them. So, red flag number one, the fairy tale job offer. Well, this is the time when the recruiter will most likely reach out to you, even though you didn't apply for a job. I cannot say it happens in 100 cases that it's wrong. It's 50-50. Sometimes people reach out to you, you go get some testing, go do some screenings, and you have a great company and you are a great contractor. You get a lot of money maybe and some opportunities, but that's not always the case. So always just think, what made the recruiter reach out to you? Was it because nobody wanted to apply? Was it because the recruiter sent out 200 invitations like that? We don't know. When you're being asked, you're being bombarded with great conditions, incredible salary, benefit, everything, even before you had the chance to have your first job interview, that's not a very good sign. It means they really want you to be lured, to be interested in this position, and you should ask yourself why. Always be critical, always ask yourself why, sometimes you can be even promised a higher salary rate than the one that's indicated in the job posting, but be careful because it's not always in writing. I mean, it's never in writing. It will be over the phone, and then when you come and you say, look, you offered me this rate, they will say it never happened. So make sure everything you do, all the correspondence has to be in the written form only. This is the proof. Written forms matter, email matters, phone calls not so much. Red flag number two, the dramatic job offer. Well, this is a job offer that starts off great. You go through your first job interview and you are so happy because you think it just went very well. And then what happens, a week happens, they they tell you, I'm sorry, we're going to call you. Sometimes they even say, we're going to call you on Monday. So you are very hopeful. Yes. So now these people know how to work, and they have great HR practices. And you wait a week and you receive no phone call. You decide to write a follow-up email. Nothing happens. Oh, okay. So one more week passes, you give it another try. You really want this job, right? So you reach out again and nothing. It's silence, not even, please give us some time. So after 3 weeks, you finally move on. You believe another candidate was preferred. And then in a month, you receive a phone call, and they either just casually offer you to go to next round or call you their best ideal candidate, and that you would just, you beat all the other candidates. Well, I wouldn't believe that so much, because probably something was going on while they were keeping you in the silence. Either one candidate didn't get the job and then couldn't last, or they had some trouble finding candidate, or maybe just you were the second best after somebody who resigned. That happens as well. If you're told you're ideal, you're the best, psychologically, we as human beings believe it. We want to be called the best. We want to be called ideal. It can really play a joke on you, because you can be offered minimum wage and with shady work conditions, but for that title to be called ideal. So always be critical and always analyze when you've been offered such a job offer again. Red flag number three, the no more questions job offer. Well, make sure that you ask an HR all your questions. That's because if you don't, you will regret it. Remember that job interview is not only for them to ask you questions, but it's the opportunity for you to ask as many questions that you want. If something is unclear or it seems vague, always reach out to recruiter and always do it via email. That's important, as I've previously mentioned. If you have email, you have proof just in case something goes wrong later. Yeah, it happened in my experience that a company failed to provide information on their physical address, on their general phone number. I suggest you just run away from the job offer like that, because basically that is not the company you can trust. Something shady is being going on, and yeah, just look somewhere else. Red flag number 4, the Concho Buffer. Well, this is tough to spot sometimes, but important to be attentive. Again, pay attention to the recruiter and the body language and nonverbal cues they show during the interview. Try to read between the lines. Always think that if a recruiter says we need employees who will work for the idea, not for the money, well, be sure that they will get money and you'll be working for the idea. Nothing bad in volunteering, just not when you try to make a living with your interpreting services. So just never be caught, on such a phrase. You always have to read carefully the job offer and the contract, especially the fine print section, because if you agree to it, you agreed, so you read and understood everything. Always be cautious and always double check here. And the last one, the red flag number 5, lack of data trap or job offer. Well, this is kind of would be your mistake. You have, as a candidate, you have to run your background check on the company. I suggest you reach out to the former employees on LinkedIn. I've done it once. It was an immense help for me. You have to spend some time researching the feedback of the current and former employees on the work conditions, on the work ethics. Just always check out the website called Glassdoor. I do it even before preparing for a job interview. Let's say you've been offered a position, you can always see the average that is paid for this position in your state, in your city. So if they ask you, provide your salary range or wage range, your hourly rates, you can always say that these are the best rates for this place. And always analyze a job offer. I would suggest you take a piece of paper, just write a list of pros and cons, understand how this job will change your lifestyle, will affect your family. Um, Always be ready to, to keep all the information that you get and analyze it well before you make a decision. Here, I would like to invite you to the group that I have just recently started. It's called For Interpreters Justice. I believe we as interpreters need to educate service providers, people around us about our profession. We need to popularize our profession. We need to just to meet, communicate, exchange ideas. Sometimes we need to advocate for fair employment conditions. We need to share experience and just simply engage in networking. You never know when you get your new great offer. You never know who might help you in your career. So just be a part of the US interpreting community and join me. Here are some of the contacts that you can check out. Please connect with me on LinkedIn. I will always accept your invitation to connect. And if you need some advice or you have a question, I also will be happy to get give you some mentoring or some advice or whatever you need. Also, you can join our group on Band for Interpreters Justice. You can look at the nonprofit activities that I engage on the website called the Immigrant Platform. You can read my reflections on the life in the US as an immigrant and just life in general on my blog Ukrainian in Philly, and here are my contact email. So to sum up all this presentation, I just want to tell you that when we work in VRI, we have to be flexible, we have to be technically savvy, we have to develop ourselves constantly, both our interpreting skill set, our interpersonal communication skills. And always trust your gut feeling. Always believe what your heart says when you go and look for employment. Analyze things. Be reasonable, and I hope that you will get the best employment that you just could dream of, and it all works well for you because you deserve it. Thank you for your time.
And thank you, Elena, for a presentation that has garnered not only intense interest, but lots and lots of questions. Thank you especially for your pragmatic focus and your really very evident concern for the interpreters. I'm not going to waste any more time because, I'm not going to take any more time because we have so many questions. Starting with a very simple one, are we able to work with multiple interpreting companies?
Yes, as a contractor, they don't limit you in work with many companies. This is a different situation when you become a full-time employee. Yes, in my experience, I recently worked with like maybe 5 big agencies and companies, but I can no longer do it if I want to become a full-time employee, especially if the company that I'm currently working and the company that I'm gonna start working are rivals. If they're rivals in the industry, unfortunately, we'll have to make a decision.
And those are big decisions. Next question. Which are free websites to create the interpreter's portfolio?
Yeah, so I can say that, should I write it in the chat or
Go right,
just?
that would be ideal. That really
Yeah,
would be wonderful, Elena.
okay. Let me see, I'm gonna write it. This is the sum that I use myself for these purposes. So it's site 123, it's Wix, GoDaddy, very weird name, Webador, the one that I have my site now, and Squarespace, I believe it's also a big one. Just go to the website and I'm pretty sure that you can have it set up for free for a portfolio.
Thank you. Someone is asking if you can recommend a great course on creating a LinkedIn account, which is a pretty important thing to do these days.
I can recommend you. I actually also host free LinkedIn course with the help of another immigrant who is a superstar of employment. He is a refugee and he got his first very good job within 6 months in the US. So we host them. If you want, you can always go to immigrant platform and register there. Just click contact me, say that you would like this course, and I will reach out to him. And we host it on Mondays usually at 8 p.m. Eastern time. Yeah, he teaches us how to create LinkedIn, how even to reach out to HRs of the companies, how to reach out to your colleagues, how to, how to be effective as a professional on LinkedIn. That's a very helpful course, and actually it helped many immigrants to find good jobs. So I encourage you to reach out to me for that.
Thank you for being a resource for that, a free resource. Someone's asking, I have a lot of OPI experience, but very little VRI experience. What is the biggest hurdle to doing VRI versus OPI? And for those of you who are not 100% versed, OPI is over the phone interpreting, VRI is video remote interpreting. So audio versus video.
Well, audio, I believe audio is much more complicated because you don't see the person. When you don't see the person, you basically only have the voice to judge, if there was some kind of miscommunication. I suggest that VRI is easier because it allows you, it gives more senses. You connect it to people visually as well, not only audially. So OPI, as far as I know, it's not my favorite mode because it's paid by the minute. And in my opinion, I feel that interpreters should not be paid by the minute. They should have an hourly minimum rate. Because by the minute it creates a lot of disrespect for the job. Correct me if I'm wrong. I just don't have a good feeling about my work be measured in minutes because my work has more to it than it has to be hourly. Hourly rate. I suggest you try VRI. You might like it more than OPI.
Interesting. Thank you. Someone's saying you mentioned Interprify and they're saying I thought they are the RSI platform and not VRI, which is actually what I thought myself.
Yeah.
So does Interprify do VRI now?
I'm not sure. It just
Okay.
basically, when I told you about platforms, I just looked up the platforms that offer these services. So Boostlingo, I would think that offers that.
Yeah, I
Let's
mean,
talk.
yeah, because VRI is normally consecutive, and so typically, um, although that's changing nowadays, obviously there are some that offer VRI and some that only offer VRI. It's less common to see the same platform doing both, but that's changing quickly, that situation. Excuse me. Oh, I'm sorry, I was about to read you a question that came with my name, so somebody, by the way, is asking about experience. More than one are asking about experiences with like specific platforms, and and also rates, and we can't answer questions according to that. Someone is asking, could you mention some of the free website resources again?
You mean where you can build your portfolio, or which websites do you mean?
I don't know. It just says free website resources. If it was
Uh,
portfolio, you've done that. If you had
yeah.
others, if that's the same, then you've answered it.
Um, yeah, I just follow newsletters. I follow cross-cultural communication newsletters. It has lots of interesting, articles on the topic of language industry. Subscribe yourself. I forgot to tell you that. Also, find the companies that you would like to work for and subscribe to their career mailing list. I do that. I've done that, and so you just basically will receive an email with the position open in that company, and you can look through and see if you can apply or send your resume. It's a very also active, good strategy to finding an employment. But the websites that just anything related to interpreting, I don't necessarily read a lot of websites. Just follow my National Council on Interpreting in Healthcare page that I'm the member of, and some, for example, Commission on Certification of Healthcare Interpreters. So some resources and certification companies you can follow. I think that will be more than enough for interpreters.
Thank you. And a question for Andrew, if you have a moment, if you could put the portfolio list of website resources back up, because it gets lost in all the chat. Someone is pointing out. Elena, do you have any resources or pointers on how to make contracts? There's an important question.
Oh, okay. So I specifically never had a contract, and usually I know that translators, especially translators of literature, they have contract where they, I think you can find templates somewhere and see, or maybe even go to the lawyer. I'm not sure. I never set up a contract. I think that the lawyer has to at least review your contract to see if everything matches, if everything is correct. But I guess in that contract you could set up your hourly rate, some what happens, some conditions, what happens if the assignment is canceled, if it's a late cancellation, any kind of conditions that you want to outline. Usually I would always go with the contracts offered by the companies or organizations I work for.
Mhm. Okay. I know that ATA members have access to that, and I believe the Interpreters Guild and some other resources offer sample contracts for interpreters or translators. But I don't know more information than that. We're not allowed to discuss rates, and we had more than one question,
Mm,
Elena, and for legal reasons we can't go there.
okay.
But someone is asking, and I think this question is safe, should the rate for VRI interpreting be different from the rate for in-person interpreting, which is an interesting question, and I think you can answer that.
Well, let's just say when we do VRI, we don't drive like or to the appointment. So usually you would be paid more. Usually a good company would provide you reimbursement for the fuel, for the mileage, for the time spent on the road. So, but the interpreting is still interpreting. Yes, you are virtually with the person, but you still, there is video, you still see another person, you're just in a different geographical location with that person. So no, I wouldn't say that the rate should be different, but of course the expenses for travel should not be included. That's what I think.
Thank you. Someone is asking about suggestions for VRI specific equipment like lighting, background, camera,
Oh,
etc.
lighting is very important. Yes, make sure you have
Oh
a
yeah.
good strong bulb in your chandelier or wherever you use a lamp. Background, there's plenty of resources where you can find Zoom background. This background I'm using is also just a background for the virtual meetings. So try to make it more or less realistic. Sometimes they even sell some kind of shades like that you can put on your chair. I tried working with that, but it didn't work for me. Part of the screen was you could see part of that shade and part of the background. So just you have to look and see what works best for you. Yeah.
Okay, thank you. Um, I'm sorry, I was looking through all the questions. I wanted to point out that some of the questions or comments that have come are a bit confusing, like how much do your healthcare, vacation, sick leave, pension savings cost you as a freelance interpreter? That's going to vary according to so much of this country, never mind in other countries. I don't know if you want to comment on that question, Elena.
Um, well, I'm not sure about that stuff because it depends. As I say, when we are contractors, we don't have stable
Mm,
income, and we
exactly.
never know how to calculate.
Exactly.
This is the reason I have hard time answering that question.
Yeah, it's easier for employees because then there's, a typical percentage in each country of your salary on average. Although it does vary state to state as well. But yeah, that's a hard one. That's a hard one. Um, somebody is asking, are immigration courts using VRI? I don't know if you have the answer to that question.
I don't think so. Immigration, maybe not, but I know that there are certain companies who have contracts with USCIS because I tried
Yes.
to get myself into that, and they just don't just take you from the street. You have to be affiliated with the company who has contract with them. It says SOSI. I think that companies I actually really wanted to work for them.
Mhm.
That is the company that takes all the USCIS. And courts, no, courts, I believe that they work even in simultaneous mode, and you have to be in person, but you have to get through the whole different process of certification with a court.
Oh yeah, yeah, that's a whole other story, certification. Um, Someone is asking, the preparation that goes into an in-person conference interpreting project is the same as for RSI or VRI appointment, yet the rates daily versus hourly tend to be lower. And this is interesting because this is, if you're in Europe, that's a whole other world for
Yes.
conference interpreting. But you, Elena, do you have any experience in charging either for your preparation time for those assignments that, really have significant preparation time, or charging your in-person rate for an appointment that only lasts for a couple of hours? I mean, how do you tackle the discrepancy is the question, between assignments that are obviously very heavy for preparation
No,
versus.
I never actually thought of charging people for my preparation because it's my own, correct me if I'm wrong, but it's, the way I'm preparing, it's my own business. And I don't think that the company can measure even how many hours you prepared. They just you provide, the bottom line is you provide service, they pay for this service. But educating yourself, preparing for this, it's your own responsibility. It shouldn't be covered by the company, I believe.
Got it. Um, Someone is asking, again, we can't discuss rates, but is asking if you do a 1 hour minimum for VRI since
Yeah.
you don't do minute
Always.
rates.
I always do only hourly rates, and I like 2 hour minimum rates. They're the best because that's fair. You never know. Sometimes the companies can cheat you out of your money. For example, they book you for 2 hours. It happened to me recently, and let's say it only lasts for 1 hour. Guess what? They refused to pay me the second hour that I was booked for. So I couldn't take another assignment, but also they didn't give me enough money that I was promised to get. So be careful. That's very important. The minimum hourly or 2 minimum hourly. Great.
Yeah, one of the sad things for face-to-face before COVID was there'd been a national effort, Elena, to drive down this sort of standard 2-hour minimum to one. I mean, sometimes you saw 1.5, but usually drive it down to one. And I'm not sure what's going on now with COVID because it affected face-to-face so much. But that interpreters fighting for their minimum. I mean,
Yes.
good for you for helping to lift up the profession. Someone is saying, I'm sorry, I went on to immigrant platform and I'm kind of lost in terms of where I can locate the LinkedIn course. Can you please help me out?
Yes, I can definitely. I'll just try and let me see how I can do it. 1 second. Yes, yeah, this is a lot of tabs, and you probably can. You know what? Just go to contact me button, really, and just briefly explain that you are looking to take this course on LinkedIn, and that will be just the last contact me folder, or the last, how you call
And
it. Yeah.
And if all else fails, anybody who has a question for Elena after this presentation, whether it's the immigrant website or anything else, you can just shoot an email to info@cultureandlanguage.net. info@cultureandlanguage.net, AND, by the way. And you'll be seeing, Andrew will be posting that in the chat, and we'll be happy to relay questions on to Elena. Would you be happy, says the questioner, to recommend 1 or 2 professional associations interpreters could join? Do you have favorites, Elena?
Yes, I do. National Council on Interpreting in Healthcare. I think it's a great association. Actually, even I suggest you visit there, but it's for members. I think for members it's free. For non-members it's $30. If I can say, tomorrow they will host also a webinar, an interesting webinar that
Yes.
you might. So yeah, this is my, I became member like 2 years ago, and I'm still a member, and I'm hoping to get in the board of directors there. So if you are there, please vote for me if you want.
Good. And they asked for 1 or 2. Is there any other professional association you particularly recommend?
It depends on the state. If you live in California, you saw every state almost have some associations. In Virginia, good is I sometimes go and listen to Virginia's association of, don't remember, but it's based in Virginia. Maybe you know, Marjorie, how they're officially called, about the mental health, some domestic violence. They always tackle this, topics.
I'm actually
Virginia.
not aware of the Virginia. There's one
No?
that's Maryland,
Sure.
Delaware. I don't think they're
It's
Virginia.
wait a second. Here, okay. No, it's some behavioral. Yeah, but they host a lot of Virginia
Yeah.
conferences. Yeah.
Yes, if you, I think I know now what you're talking about. If the questioner wants to shoot us an email, I can probably hook you up. Yeah, they're not a professional association, but they do wonderful events.
Mm-hmm.
And I know a couple of the organizers. In fact, they're having one pretty soon that we put in the newsletter, I think last week, or the week before.
Somebody put it in the chat.
Oh, good.
VRI. Yeah.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you for that. 2 questions about the same topic. What is the brand or headphones of the equipment you're using right now? And what headset do you recommend, especially for noise cancellation doing VRI?
You know what? I'm using the brand that I discovered just by reading reviews on Amazon and trying to find a new headset. The company is Chinese. I never heard of it before. It's called Earbay. I can write it down. They have affordable equipment, I believe, and so far it's been so good. People say they hear me well, and they have noise canceling function. That headset with microphone was about $50. I believe. If you want to go for more luxurious, you can check out Logitech. They offer webcam and USB wired headset for around $220 and wireless start of $240. Another good brand that my friend recommended, who works selling this type of headsets, is Poly. I can put it here also, another professional, but also go for more expensive because I bought Poly black wire, I think, stereo Bluetooth headset, and well, it didn't meet my expectation, let's say. So depends. You have to check and see.
I have to say that this is really important. We get this question every time, but it's really a super important question, but especially for remote to have good sound. It's protecting everybody because they can understand you better, but it's also protecting you long term as an interpreter. So as soon as you have enough money to invest in a really good headset, that is a great investment. Last question, quick one. Do you work with a colleague when your assignment lasts more than 2 hours?
No, I usually perform it. Yes, you feel drained afterwards, but some assignments can lead up to 4 hours. Well, this is how we should do. I never had a colleague because it's not. I go there before pandemic. It was in person, and I stay there. Nobody comes and says, "Oh, Olena, I think you're tired. Do you want to take a break? Get a coffee?" No, you have to do it.
This is the sad reality that probably shocks some of our listeners from Europe and some other countries who are conference interpreters. But welcome to the world of OPI and VRI, which is consecutive, and where the expectation seems to be that the interpreter is superhuman. We object, we speak up at conferences and other venues. But right now it's a very tough situation for a lot of freelance interpreters. And therefore, as we wrap up, all the more reason to thank you, Elena, for sharing your honest experiences and guidance and advice for interpreters who are dealing with reality. And I suspect in more countries than not, the reality is only a bit more difficult or challenging, or maybe a great deal more difficult and challenging than in the United States, depending on the country. I want to personally thank you for caring as much as you do, for creating your immigrant platform, for providing those free resources, including this presentation today, to share your knowledge.
I would like just to get the final thing. I was just reading chat, and some interpreter said get certified, it opens a lot of doors. I totally agree. After you get certified, you are being written down in the list of interpreters who are certified, and you will see how it will change the game for you. You will get more offers from different companies. You will get more work. So certification is the key. You should work and try and study to get certified in your language.
Thank you so much, Elena.